September 15th, 1981, the Fontainebleau Hotel, Miami Beach, Presidential Suite 2847. At exactly 9 p.m., 5 of the most powerful crime bosses in the Western Hemisphere walked into what would become the most secretive and influential meeting in criminal history. Each man controlled vast territories, commanded armies of loyal soldiers, and generated hundreds of millions in revenue. Each had built their empire through violence and cunning, and each had come to Miami for one reason: to meet with a woman who had done something they thought was impossible. Griselda Blanco had convinced them that working together would be more profitable than destroying each other. What happened in that hotel suite over the next 6 hours would fundamentally change how organized crime operated throughout the Americas. The agreement they reached would establish territories, resolve conflicts, and create a criminal confederation that would dominate drug trafficking for 3 decades. This is the story of the Brotherhood Pact and how Griselda Blanco became the unofficial empress of American organized crime. To understand what brought these 5 men to Miami, you need to understand the chaos consuming the drug trade throughout the late 1970s. Territorial wars between rival organizations had become so violent that they were attracting unprecedented law enforcement attention. More damaging than law enforcement pressure was the economic waste caused by constant warfare. Organizations were spending more money on security and weapons than they were generating in profits. Valuable shipping routes were being destroyed. Key personnel were being eliminated. By 1981, intelligent observers recognized that the current situation was unsustainable. Something had to change, or all organizations would eventually be destroyed by law enforcement or each other. But organizing peace among warring crime bosses seemed impossible. These men had been enemies for decades. They had killed each other's soldiers, stolen territories, undermined operations. The level of mistrust made cooperation appear unrealistic. That's where Griselda Blanco saw an opportunity. Unlike the male crime bosses trapped by their egos and histories of conflict, Griselda had maintained business relationships with all 5 organizations. She had never declared war on any of them, but had also never submitted to their authority. This unique position made her the only person who could credibly propose a peace agreement and serve as neutral mediator. But Griselda's proposal wasn't just about ending wars. It was about creating something entirely new, a criminal confederation more powerful than any individual organization. The 5 men who came to Miami represented different aspects of the American criminal landscape. Vincent the Fish Marcelli controlled Italian-American organized crime in New York and New Jersey, with deep roots in legitimate businesses and sophisticated political connections. Carlos El Jefe Ramirez commanded the most powerful Mexican trafficking network, with routes from Colombia to California and distribution reaching every major American city. Samuel Big Sam Washington ran the dominant African-American criminal organization in the Southeast, controlling Miami to New Orleans through street-level distribution and political corruption. Roberto the banker Torretti managed money laundering for dozens of organizations throughout the Caribbean, with financial networks that could move hundreds of millions without detection. Michael the Professor O'Brien had built the most sophisticated technology and intelligence operation, providing secure communications and strategic intelligence to anyone who could pay. Each organization was powerful individually, but they had been weakening each other through constant competition. Griselda's proposal was that they could be infinitely more powerful if they coordinated efforts. The meeting began with careful formalities designed to show respect. Each boss was accompanied by only 1 bodyguard, and all weapons were checked with hotel security. Griselda had arranged the room like a corporate boardroom, with conference table, comfortable chairs, and professional catering. She wanted the atmosphere to feel like a business meeting, not a criminal conspiracy. "Gentlemen," Griselda began, standing at the head of the table, "thank you for accepting my invitation. I know some of you have had disagreements, but I believe we share a common interest in building profitable, sustainable operations." Vincent Marcelli spoke first. "Mrs. Blanco, with respect, some of us have been in this business longer than you've been alive. We've seen attempts at cooperation, and they never last." "You're absolutely right," Griselda replied. "Previous attempts failed because they were based on personal relationships between leaders who didn't trust each other. What I'm proposing is different, a business partnership based on mutual profit, not personal loyalty." She walked to a whiteboard with detailed charts and diagrams. "Currently, each organization controls specific territories and operates specific services, but you're all competing for the same customers, routes, resources. This competition is costing money and attracting law enforcement attention.
Carlos Ramirez leaned forward. So what exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing we stop competing and start coordinating. Vincent, your people have the best political connections. Carlos, you control the most efficient transportation routes. Sam, you have the best street-level distribution. Roberto, you have the most sophisticated financial systems. Michael, you have the best intelligence capabilities. She pointed to different sections of her charts. Instead of each organization trying to do everything, what if we specialized? What if Vincent's people handled political protection for everyone? What if Carlos's routes were available to all organizations? What if Sam distribution served everyone's products? What if Roberto's financial services were available to all partners? What if Michael's intelligence protected all our interests? The room was silent as the bosses considered the implications. The result would be that each organization could focus on what it does best, while having access to services from partners who are the best in their specialties. Everyone would be more efficient, profitable, and protected. Roberto Torretti responded first. Interesting concept, but how would profits be divided? How would territories be managed? How would conflicts be resolved? Over the next 3 hours, Griselda presented a detailed plan addressing every aspect of criminal cooperation, profit-sharing formulas based on contribution and risk, territorial agreements, eliminating competition while maximizing coverage, dispute resolution procedures preventing conflicts from escalating into wars. Most importantly, she had developed a governance structure allowing the Confederation to make decisions without requiring constant meetings between bosses. Sam Washington asked the crucial question, who would be in charge? Who would have ultimate authority? Griselda smiled. No one. That's the point. This isn't about creating a new hierarchy. It's about creating a network where everyone benefits from everyone else's expertise. But someone has to coordinate, Vincent Marcelli objected. Someone has to facilitate, Griselda said, and I'm proposing that I serve in that role, not as a boss, but as a neutral facilitator. I would coordinate services between organizations, resolve disputes, and ensure everyone lives up to commitments. And what would you get? Carlos Ramirez asked suspiciously. A 5% coordination fee on all inter-organization transactions, plus access to all specialized services for my operations. Michael O'Brien had been quiet, but now spoke up. Your proposal is impressive, but how can we trust each other? How can we be sure no one will use information to attack others? Trust has to be built through successful cooperation, but we can start with safeguards, limited information sharing initially, small joint operations to test the framework, gradual expansion as trust develops, and penalties for betrayal, Sam Washington added. Absolutely. Anyone who betrays the Confederation forfeits all benefits and becomes a target of all other members. For 2 hours, they worked through details and objections. Gradually, skepticism gave way to genuine interest as they realized the potential benefits. At 3:15 a.m., Vincent Marcelli stood up. I think we have something that could work, but this is a business arrangement. If it stops being profitable, I'm out. One by one, the other bosses agreed to participate in what they called the American Business Consortium. The formal agreement established 5 core principles. First, territorial respect. No organization would operate in another's territory without permission and compensation. Second, service sharing. Each organization would provide specialized services to members at predetermined rates. Third, information coordination. Intelligence about law enforcement, market opportunities, and threats would be shared. Fourth, dispute resolution. Conflicts would be resolved through mediation rather than violence, with Griselda as neutral mediator. Fifth, mutual protection. An attack on any member would be considered an attack on all members. When the meeting ended at dawn, the 5 crime bosses left knowing they had participated in something unprecedented. For the first time in history, major criminal organizations had agreed to coordinate under a formal business structure, but none understood what Griselda had accomplished that night. She hadn't just organized a peace treaty. She had created a new model for criminal enterprise based on efficiency, specialization, and mutual benefit rather than competition and violence. More importantly, she had positioned herself as the indispensable center of this network. Every transaction between members would go through her. Every dispute would be resolved by her. Every opportunity would be evaluated by her. Within 6 months, the American Business Consortium was generating more profits than members had ever achieved independently. Territorial wars had ended. Law enforcement pressure decreased because activities were less visible and more sophisticated. The success attracted attention from other organizations throughout the Americas. Within 2 years, similar confederations had been established worldwide, all based on Griselda's model. By 1985, Griselda was coordinating criminal activities across 4 continents through affiliated confederations. She had become the closest thing to a global crime boss that had ever existed. But the true genius wasn't the scale of her influence. It was the sustainability of the system she created. Previous criminal cooperation had always collapsed when leaders died, were arrested, or betrayed partners. But Griselda's confederation was based on business logic rather than personal relationships. It created value for all participants, giving everyone incentives to maintain the system. The Brotherhood Pact established principles that continue to influence organized crime today. The idea that criminal organizations can be more powerful through cooperation than competition. The concept that specialization increases efficiency and reduces risk. The recognition that neutral mediation can resolve disputes without violence. When federal investigators discovered the American Business Consortium in 1987, they found something they had never seen, a criminal organization that operated more like a multinational corporation than a traditional crime family. The investigation took years because agents couldn't understand how it functioned. They were looking for traditional hierarchy, but found a network of independent organizations coordinating through sophisticated business relationships. Griselda Blanco's Brotherhood Pact didn't just change crime history, it changed the nature of criminal organization itself. She proved that the most dangerous criminals aren't the most violent ones. They're the ones who understand that cooperation is more powerful than competition, that intelligence is more valuable than force, and that creating value for others is the most effective way to build lasting power. The woman who united 5 mafias showed the world that real leadership isn't about commanding obedience. It's about making yourself so valuable that everyone wants to work with you. That lesson continues to influence how sophisticated criminal organizations operate worldwide. Because Griselda Blanco didn't just make a pact with 5 mafias, she created a new model for criminal enterprise that made all of them more powerful than they had ever been alone. That's the legacy of the Brotherhood Pact, proof that sometimes revolutionary changes come not from destroying existing systems, but from showing people how those systems can work better. The Brotherhood Pact changed crime history forever, and Griselda Blanco became the architect of modern organized crime. All because she understood that making everyone else successful is the most effective way to become indispensable. And indispensable people don't just survive, they thrive for decades.